everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am JT Matthews, one of your hosts, and I'm here with the Dr. Nicholas Manning at Dr_N Manning on Twitter, and myself at JT Matthews01 on X. Sorry. I guess I should make the change at some point.
No.
Just continue to live in denial.
Bro, it's Twitter. You know it, I know it, we know it. That's what it is.
It is. That's what it feels. I mean, it still feels like Twitter to me. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I'll take that back because Twitter kind of sucks more lately. But it is the best for sports reporting and stuff, so I will give it that.
Yeah. Hoping it comes back. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I started out a little rocky. Had to be provided some training for some folks hour away at 7:00 this morning. So if you do math, drive far, all the good stuff. But it went really well. Good group. Was able to get a good leg workout in. Can't skip leg day, baby. Even though I'm all of 41 and feel it. It was good. So got a couple of the kids back already. Good moods so far. Good moods. So trending upward.
Yeah.
How about you, bro?
It's been fine. It's been good. I got to the DMV earlier today. Had to get something done there. Got to the grocery store. Did a little bit of grocery shopping.
Dude, we're the worst. we are Will Ferrell from old school.
It's true. Went to the Home Depot.
Might get Bed Bath and Beyond. Don't know if I have enough time.
It does kind of feel that way, but I mean, this is where we are in life.
It is, man. You know what? It is.
Embrace it. Because what else can you do?
It's you can fight upstream, or you can turn around, ride that bad boy, enjoy the view. So you know what? Bed Bath and Beyond, Home Depot actually sounds like a very. Just kidding. I'm a Lowe's guy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, convenience wise, that makes sense for us.
They have really good, Lowe's really appreciates the vets. So I'm a fan of that.
I like that too. All right, let's talk about some different sports, and let's start with your Colorado Avalanche.
Colorado Avalanche.
Okay. Nick,
your generality. Your as in like.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, if you own them, that would be dope. But things to aspire to.
Yep.
I think we want to talk about. Let's start with just Mikko Rantanen and the contract situation and what appears to be a bit of a stalemate at the moment. Avs are playing well. They're I think the offense is kind of hit and miss lately. Had some games where they explode. Had some games where they're scoring 1 or 2 goals. Consistency is still something they're searching for, especially against non-division opponents. But ultimately they're in a positioned well. They have they're fairly healthy for the most part. But the thing that's looming over this team is the potential contract extension or not of Mikko Rantanen. I guess it would be a new contract, probably not an extension. But regardless,
it'd be an extension if they get it done prior to free agency.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true.
Yep.
So with that in mind, how are you feeling about the situation kind of in general? And do you see this coming to a favorable conclusion for the Colorado Avalanche?
Man, it's a little bit. So really next after this season, the only, in my opinion, the only real, impactful free agents that the Avalanche stand to lose is Jonathan Drouin, who has been a good solid piece, and then Mikko. And so, you could look at some bottom 6 or some, bottom pairing forwards, all that kind of stuff. But you got your goalies unlocked. You have your superstars outside of Rantanen. I'm worried. So Rantanen's camp had said we're not going to negotiate in season, which is always, anytime that players say that, regardless of sport, essentially deals don't get done without deadlines. Right? I don't know about you, but someone's like, hey, you got to turn this in, but it's due next month. I'm not going to start working on it right now.
That's fair.
So with that, we'll see what Mikko wants to do. I don't think it'll end favorably if the Avalanche continue to stand on their laurels. I don't even know if that's right. I don't know. That's right there. They don't want to pay anyone more than they pay Mac. And, with the escalating salary cap, which is all good news, if you're going to keep Mikko, you're gonna, right? Like, he's going to reset the market, especially if you kind of look at comparables with Draisaitl and kind of, you're the second best player, but probably still a top 10 player, track that I'm looking at. You really, to be able to do that, you have to have some insight on what Gabe's going to do, because I think for them to really be able to pony up, even if you were able to give him, Nathan McKinnon makes 12.6. If you were to give, Mikko 13 to, all the stuff, you could try and bump Mac up another little bit if you wanted to. But you can't do it without Gabe's contract. And then you feel like you have an in-house option for Jonathan Drouin and what he can provide. To be honest, if they lose Mikko, here's the bigger issue. I'm going to pose it your way. Is it worth taking a risk? So if they're hell-bent, right, Joe Sakic, McFarland say, no, we're not going to pay you more than Nathan McKinnon. It's culture of the team. If you don't like it, be better than Nathan McKinnon, maybe. That's probably not what they'll say. But so no matter what, we're going to hit free agency with Mikko. Do you risk it and say, you know what? When Val comes back, even though he's week to week with the setback, maybe Gabe comes back. If that group is together, we have a shot at Stanley Cup. Do you take that risk? And then Mikko leaves for nothing? Or do you say, hey, you know what? We could probably get, 3 pretty good young pieces, maybe a young up-and-coming defenseman, a couple years, maybe a solid pro to head up one of those first 2 lines, not head up, but join one of those first 2 lines, and then maybe a couple other pieces. So you're spreading that cost around, adding more depth. So not as much high-end talent, more depth. What would you do? If you know that his camp is going to stand on it, we're not going to negotiate through the season. Because to be honest, unless they come with a really, really great offer or I really, really love it here, if I'm Mikko, I'm not signing an extension. I'm waiting to go to free agency, see what the offers are. It doesn't mean that I have to leave, but what's the incentive? You let me get this far, unless it's really, your 1A is to stay or you're worried about injury. Outside of those 2 things, I'm going to go to market. Right? I'm going to see what other people are willing to pay me, especially when you're a guy that produces like Mikko does, and he's having a fantastic year so far. So it's not like he's on a dip or a decline. But, the Avalanche best shot is probably with him in-house. But do you risk it, right? Winning a Stanley Cup is hard, I've heard. So there's no guarantee that this team will be able to get there. What would you do? You're Joe Sakic right now. You can't negotiate. He's going to go to free agency. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because you want to. I think that the goal ultimately is and should be to re-sign Mikko. Now, at what cost? That's where you kind of get into debate. What's it worth? What's it not worth? But I think if your intention is to re-sign him, then
just for sake of the argument, Draisaitl makes 14 a year. Connor McDavid makes 12.5, at least through next year. And then Connor McDavid at 26, 27 is a free agent. So obviously that'll get adjusted. Draisaitl is going up from 8.5 to 14, which is essentially kind of like Mikko range. So it's a jump from his 9 million to 14.1, right? To beat Draisaitl or something like that. So anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I mean, if your goal is and you have some hope that you can re-sign Mikko, then you move forward. You just move forward with the team as it is, and you take that risk. I don't like losing guys for free. Obviously, you'd like to get some assets if you can, but if that is what you think the best thing is moving forward for this team, and I do think that it is, then you got to hold pat. You have to hold pat. At the end of the day, if you don't get him re-signed, that is $9 million back in salary cap that you get to go out and figure out what you want to do with. Maybe you don't get the top end talent that you have with Mikko, but maybe you get some more middle line talent, guys that can, kind of buoy the scoring a little bit more evenly throughout maybe the top three lines. Get someone, maybe an older vet that still's got something left in the tank to put them next to McKinnon and see what they can do together. I don't think that. I mean, $9 million is a significant amount of money, especially I think it's about 10% of the salary cap as it is for the Avalanche. So that's a big chunk of money. I mean, you can get a lot done. But that being said, you're probably going to have to move off someone else at some point. And there's just not. I mean, you can try and move Casey Middlestat. I don't know how much you're going to get for him.
And
isn't
that Nathan McKinnon's best friend?
No, that's Drew Drew played with.
Okay,
with
just
them.
checking. I was like, oh
Middlestat,
yeah. You got him confused. They all look like,
Yeah, everything's right. Middlestat came over when we traded Bowen.
Yep. And that's why he signed the 1-year deal below market, try and blow up a little bit.
Yep. And now he's about 5.75 mil a year. If you can move off of him, give you a little more space. There's some lower end guys if you wanted to move off a guy like Miles Wood when he's healthy. If he's healthy, you can. You might have to move off of someone like Josh Manson. But again, like these are guys that I don't know what the market is for them. I think you could probably get something, but you're definitely going to get a lot more for Mikko. Mikko, you can get multiple draft picks. You can get multiple prospects.
Yeah.
He's a guy that if you decide to pull the trigger and just move them and say, the pieces we have right now are the pieces that we have. And, maybe you get someone who you can slot in next to McKinnon on that top line, or, a good second pairing winger or second shift winger that can bring something to the table that kind of mimics what Mikko can do, then I wouldn't be overly surprised. But I think, these guys have been playing together their whole career. They are top scoring threats in the NHL. I don't know where they stand as far as scoring altogether, but I know they're still up there. And I think that, it's a little bit like, I don't want to say your super teams back in the day in the NBA, but you have to have at least two guys. One guy doesn't get it done for you. If your top line can go out there and win every night, or at least most nights, you've got a shot. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out. I am hopeful that they'll get him re-signed. You may take some casualties along the way, but I think at the end of the day, assuming it's not, maybe a top two pairing defenseman or something like that, those guys are more. I would be more apt to get rid of them as we would to try and not pay Mikko long term.
Yeah. See, it's hard. It's, if you look at it, looking at Chicago Blackhawks on Spot Rack, Taylor Hall, Tyler Bertuzzi, you could get both of those guys right now for less than the cost that's going to take to sign Mikko.
Right.
And that's just an example of the type of talent that you could bring back. And so to be honest, if I don't feel good about it, I don't know that I would leap into the off season with no faith. I'd have to have like a spit in hand deal. Hey, you're going to give us exclusive negotiating rights for a week or two, whatever that might be. Don't be in a hurry to sign a deal. If you can honor that, we're not going to move him. And then I think you take the risk. In the end, too, his $10 million is going to come off the books. You can utilize that in filling that spot if you don't bring him back. So it's not like, it's not like you can't do something with that. You just have to do it in free agency as opposed to a trade. If I don't have that, to be honest, I negotiate to the trade deadline. And if he isn't interested or doesn't want to sign what we are, our best final offer, I would move Mikko. And I say that begrudgingly because he is, top 10 player in the world. I mean, legitimately top 10 player in the world. So to trade that, I think is not smart. I think you got to bring him back. I think Nathan McKinnon would understand, hey, you're going to, we'll sweeten you up when the cap gets to here, like be a good teammate, get paid less than your friend. McDavid did it. Wink, like that kind of thing. Their commitment to not paying more than they pay their best player. If the cap were staying flat, I would say, yep, okay, I understand it. Yep, you want to structure it, therefore, all that good stuff. But since it's escalating, you're going to be able to pay lesser players more as it goes. That's how it kind of works. I think that you got to, if you have those three, you have Makar, really four with Taves and Mac and Rantanen, I think that you're always in the Stanley Cup conversation. If you keep that core group together, I think it's a little bit more than rolling the dice. So if you don't feel like you can, if you don't feel really good about it, I wouldn't be mad if they dealt him. I think you'll get back some really good pieces. I've seen McFarland and Sakic. I think they do a tremendous job in evaluating talent, especially deals time. They do a good job. I mean, look at the goalie situation. I don't think any of us were super stoked about those deals for the freshness of it. Yeah, but not like any of us were like, yeah, Blackwood. Like been following him his whole career. Can't wait till he gets in, And so they knew something. They knew what kind of fit, all those things. So I really trust them if they made a deal, I wouldn't be upset about it. We had a 10-year run with Mikko. Nice job. Most sports, you don't finish with a team that drafted you, which is how it works. Right. And so I wouldn't think that this sport would be any different, even though it's a little bit more loyal long-term. But I got to believe that they will figure it out and get Mikko signed, and then, like you said, deal with the rest when they deal with the rest. My opinion, Gabe has really probably till the trade deadline to figure it out. Like, hey man, you're coming back or you're not. And I think that that's the way that you can try and keep this core group together without having to shed off pieces, or at least not important pieces. So I vote keep him if you can. If you're not sure, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd rather not walk away. If you feel like it's imminent, we're not gonna find something together. Then obviously get what you can.
Or even just if there's a risk, if it's like, it's 60-40, he could sign somewhere else.
Yeah,
and there's a good deal, some good players under contract for. Unless Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, like if you trade him, I'm quitting. Which they wouldn't do. Hockey players are built different. Something like that you understand about the complexities of the locker room to be a little bit different. You have to, making some salaries match potentially. You even can save a little bit of money, bring people in, have some more money for next year to be able to do something in free agency, especially if you move on from Gabe, all that good stuff. So I don't have to be sold that he's coming back to not trade him. I have to feel like it is really a dice roll. It's really a dice roll, because I think you can command some really good assets back, some good young players with good contracts. I think why not? Sometimes change is good, but he'd have to go to the Eastern Conference unless you're going to get like an absolute stud for stud or something. I don't want to see him in the playoffs, unless it's for Stanley Cup. Like send him east. Buffalo, they don't know what to do. People, they have a ton of money. Boston. There's some teams over there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I'm looking at the free agent class for next year. It's a lot of older guys. There's some younger guys, Mitchell Marner, but I mean, you're going to pay him as much as you would, and maybe not as much as you'd pay Mikko, but pretty close. Yeah. But you're looking at guys in their 30s, Nicholas Backstrom, Brent Burns, Dmitry Orlov, Jeff Petrie, Brad Marchand. These are all like 36-plus-year-old guys. They're some of your higher, more coveted free agents. Not to say that that's bad, but you're not signing any of those guys to long term. If you can kind of get some young talent, or at least some talent of guys that may be in their prime, whether their prime's as high as Mikko's or not, that also gives you just valuable contracts to be able to trade later if it doesn't work out.
And that would be my push. I don't know that I would. I wouldn't go into it assuming, like, for me, that's why the trade part, I don't think you can let go by, because I think much more inclined to be able to bring him in. I think other team would rather bring him in and negotiate with him and re-sign him than trying to do so and outbid other people in free agency. I looked at the list too. You got, like I said, Taylor Halls, you got a few guys like that talent wise could fit. Maybe you sign them to 1-year deals and you just kind of do the Jerome McGinley, kind of just re-sign every year until maybe you get a younger player. But, there's some teams, I think, with some younger talent. You saw what Chicago did. Chicago traded some really good young pieces before the draft yesteryear, a few seasons ago. Some teams maybe don't know what they're doing, and you can capitalize on that. Maybe bring some younger guys that are fresh on an extension, but smaller, $5, $6, $7 million deals that you can bring in 2 or, 1 and an up and coming defenseman. So you kind of prepare for maybe to move a Manson, et cetera. So, it's interesting because it's just like the Nuggets, right? With Jamal, is it time to break them up? You had one championship. In the end, McKinnon is the guy that drives it. That's who I'm thinking about in my lens, is how do we maximize his window, not how do we maximize Mikko Rantanen's window. And if you can write that narrative without Mikko, there's possibly you can write it without Mikko, then I think you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little scared to see what happens, but at the same time,
that's why I was talking about it. I don't think this is going to end well. I think that there's going to be some feelings and potentially some moves, and I think it's the business. So for them to not want to sign him for more than Nate, I feel like there's something there with Nate then, because if I'm Mac and I don't care, he doesn't seem like a guy that's driven over a couple $1 million and all that kind of stuff. $2 million.
No.
Then maybe he is. Maybe he's the guy. Nope, I don't want people making more money than me. I'm the best player. I don't know. And that's stuff that we won't know. Once it plays itself out, I think we'll be able to fill in some of those gaps. So I hope that he stays. I believe that he will stay, but I'm also preparing this might end ugly for sure.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. Needless to say, though, you got Mikko to the end of the season, and you've got a good roster. May as well, even if it's not going to be forever, and there's an eventual split that's going to happen. You got a window still. You're in a window where you can win a cup, and maybe they'll try to maximize it, even if it's just for this year with Mikko. Maybe that gives you a little more motivation to try and just take advantage of this season as it is, because you don't know what the future is going to hold.
Yep, I agree.
All right, let's jump into. You want to talk Nuggets or Broncos?
Let's do quick Nuggets, and then we'll roll with our the meat of the plate.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Nuggets then, and let's just start with Nikola Jokic. Dude has, in his last 4 games, he's got 4 triple doubles, and he hasn't played the fourth quarter of any of those games. The Nuggets are 14. I think have 11 and 3 over the last 14, something like that. And this team is just rolling. We're beating teams that the Nuggets are supposed to beat. They are, the Heat and the Magic and Philly have some good players. Obviously, they're not on the top of the East. Obviously, the East is a little bit weaker. But these are teams that you're supposed to go out and beat, and Jokic is just dominating right now. I'm a little, and I'm just gonna. I'm probably not preaching to anyone that's not a Jokic fan if they're listening to this podcast. However, I think it's crazy that people are saying that Shea should be the MVP. I respect Shea. I think he's a great player. I wanted Shea a long time ago when he was with the Clippers.
Yep.
And I've been a fan of his for a long time. I look and I understand the best player on the best team. Fine. Jokic is putting up unprecedented numbers that are, career numbers for him. He's playing the best basketball of his career. He just said that last night on TNT to Shaq. Yep. And this is a humble superstar. And when he thinks he's playing the best of his career, he's probably right. And he's shown that right now. What is your take on this? Is it just people are sick of giving the award to Jokic? Is it their narrative? being pushed that
Yeah.
we're not aware of.
Michael Jordan narrative, man. Right? It's like it's Michael Jordan was the most valuable player every year from 1989 on. Every year that he played basketball, he was the MVP. But in the end, it's like, all right, well, we got to give it to somebody. You know, like he doesn't need it every year, but we all know that he's the most valuable player every year. You know, he really outside of the NFL, I think the NFL is probably one of the few sports that will actually give it to, you know, usually it's going to be the most valuable quarterback. We got to readjust that award.
Sure.
But it's going to go to the guy that deserves it usually. And they don't care if that guy wins it 3 times in a row, 4 times in a row, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, etc. Right. Basketball, there is Carmelo get a couple, even though we know like, oh, that's cute, but Michael Jordan's better. And so, you know, let me read off his career lines real quick, and then I'm in contrast with this regular season. Right. Sure. So he is career 55%, 55.8. Let's round up. So 55.8% from the field shooter this season, up to 56.3 from 3-point land, 35.9% 3-point shooter, up to 47.5% from 3.
Yeah.
Like it's up 12 percentage points, and he's shooting more threes than he does in a game. So it's not like he's taking, you know, just a couple. You know, staying almost the same at free throw percentage, rebounds up from 10.9 to 13.2, assists up from 7.1 to 9.9, blocks at still over a half a block a game, steals at 1.9 from his career average of 1.3, turnover staying about the same, you know, points per game. It's up from a career average of 21.4 to 30. I mean, he's averaging a triple-double, 80% free throw shooting, 56% from the floor, 47 plus from 3. It's like, dude broke the game, right? Like it's
for sure.
You know what? If Shea won it, I would be happy for him. I think he's phenomenal, best player of the best team kind of thing. But we would know, or I would know, you and I would know. It's Jokic fatigue, right? Like just the people that vote are tired of putting his name first. That's essentially, you know, especially when you look at just what he's done, you know, like you said, 4 triple doubles in a row without playing a quarter of those games.
Right.
And, you know, now this team is second in the division. They're moving up there. You know, they're most likely at minimum going to be the 4 seed. And we've seen what the biggest thing is. We've seen when it happens when he doesn't play. Houston game, right? Like, and the difference that he makes when he's on the floor. So you know, Shaq, I think might have said it. KD might have said, like, he's generational. He is, you know, top, in my opinion, now, you know, he is top 10 worthy of all time, not just in the NBA, right? Like, I think we know he's the best in the NBA. I think for the last 5 years, at least, he's been the best. That's a pretty good stretch when you can say 5 seasons in a row, he's been the best player on the planet. Yeah. And maybe there's some arguments a little bit before, you know, but what he's doing is just, it's different. And his game is so smooth and translatable. He's not going to go backwards. He's not going to lose it. He's not winning with sheer freak athleticism and then all of a sudden can't bounce. He is a guy that's methodical. He outthinks. You can see he's getting smarter. Playing with a guy like Russell Westbrook, I think, has really elevated that too, because now you get a guy who thinks like you do, can get you the ball in the spots that you would get other guys. So he's getting some more easier buckets. Man, I think I'm going to break my arm for that, for being on the pro Westbrook bandwagon.
Yeah, you should.
Early on. So, yeah, love Shea. Think Shea is great. You know, I think we all recognize, especially removed from Embiid winning, you know, his MVP. Yeah, like you're just not in the same stratosphere. And you know, Shea is phenomenal. Shea hasn't done what he's done with the longevity and in the different ways that he can impact the game, right? He's even improved significantly in his defense. I would say he's probably one of the better defensive big men, you know, and there's some guys who just play defense that are big men. That's what they do because they can jump and blah, blah, blah. You know, I would stack up his intelligence, his positioning, all that stuff up with, you know, some of the best athletic freaks in the NBA right now playing the center position. So if really the question will be, again, if Jamal can continue to creep up to being the second best player on this team. This is the pro, like, don't break up the band because they can win the championship that we just had for the Avalanche. Yep, let's keep the band together. Let the dust settle when it's the end of the season, and we'll kind of come back to it. Christian Brown, even, the 20 points in 3 out of his last 4, something like that. Aaron Gordon, who, if you didn't love AG as a basketball fan or a human before now, shame on you. The guy not only went from 30-point stud on Orlando, gets traded here, immediately falls in line as the 4th option to MPJ. Like, if I were here, if I came as Aaron Gordon, I'd be like, look, what have you done? I'm not gonna, Maul maybe, Jokic sure, but not you. Nope. Graceful. Now that he's coming off the bench and is echoing about how fantastic his teammates are, and I'll do whatever gets done. And I believe him. I don't think it's smoke. I think in doing so, you're able to manage Jamal's ego, get Westbrook, kind of getting and ramping that group up. AG's on the floor to finish stuff out. Doesn't mean he's not going to get 36 minutes a game or whatever he wants. But the selflessness is back. And so I think, and really a lot of that comes from Jokic and saying, you know what, like, I'm going to make you guys perform. He's passing up shots to make sure Jamal shoots the ball. I think it's a message of, like, I need you to play better basketball without calling him out, without making it a deal. So not only is he playing the best, I also think he's leading the best that he's led in his time. So it's phenomenal. It's just so much fun to be in the Nikola Jokic era. Like, it's such good stuff, man. And like you said, this is the best basketball he's played, stat for stat, 100% it is. And this team, I think at one point was like 11-10. Does that sound about right? Like, they were not great. We were talking about playing. And then now, if I'm any team in the NBA, I don't want to play them in a 7-game series.
No way.
No.
So, I mean, especially with the pedigree. I mean,
yep.
The guys that are the teams that are ahead of you right now have not won anything. They've not won. I mean, Oklahoma City's won a playoff series, 2 playoff series with that group. But you've got a core that's won a championship. You've got a core that has gone all the way, has dominated on the way there, who understands what it takes to play in the playoffs, who understands what the grind is.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, are you scared of the Memphis Grizzlies in the playoffs? No, everyone's healthy. Both squads are healthy. 7-game series, right? I'm not either. No. Houston, up-and-coming team, really like them. If everyone's healthy on both teams, do I think that the Nuggets won't pull it out in a 7-game series with Houston?
No.
Oklahoma City, I still would favor the Nuggets. Would I be shocked if OKC was it? No. I mean, this is what they've been spending the last 15 years doing, was like this season and all their assets. So then you go to the Eastern Conference, the Cavs, I think, are a phenomenal team. Nope, I'm not. I think that the Nuggets, in my opinion, would be favored in every matchup, maybe outside of Boston. And that's pretty nice to be able to get that feeling. And a ton of that is not only how well Jokic's playing, but I think, again, Jamal Murray putting his big boy pants on, sounds more accountable, seems more in tune with the locker room. I think with that, when that happens, you see what this team is capable of, right? It's the best player in the world can sit out a whole quarter. And, you're not losing the plus-minus battle with him on the floor like you normally would. You're getting guys to contribute in a bunch of different ways. Strawther, 20-plus, the other, guys are chipping in, and I think they found their groove. They know what's expected of them, and they're delivering. And I think that all comes from Jokic for sure. Yeah.
I mean, having Aaron Gordon come off the bench is huge. It just allows a second unit to have more of a facilitator from him and Jamal Murray out there together are good. They're both good passers. Mm-hmm. They are getting guys open. If you watch how Aaron Gordon's been playing off the bench, he's been shooting great. He is. He went into the lab in the offseason and worked on that shot. You could tell. But regardless, the way that he's been playing out there is great. They have great spacing. He has the ability to get down in the paint and attack mismatches. If he is not being aggressive in that way, he is ball handling and getting guys open. Mm-hmm. He had a play. I think he ended up kicking it to Julian Strawther. where because he's such a threat off the bench, they're coming down to double him in the post, kicks it out to Julian Strother for a wide open three.
Yep.
You know, he's creating having him in there. They can't play him one-on-one, especially with the second team guys. And so it's allowing that second unit to have a lot more flexibility, a lot more space, and to execute. And not to say that he's Jokic for the second unit, but it's kind of feeling more like that. You know, he knows when to be a facilitator and when to be aggressive on the block, and you know, just that additional efficiency in scoring has just been huge, and shooting has been huge for that group and for that team. You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just keep things where they are. And then just to piggyback on the Westbrook thing, it's funny because the talk about having Westbrook on the floor is also he can't shoot, spacing is going to be worse. Well, no one really thought about the fact that he's just going to be facilitate for Jokic, and Jokic is going to get under the basket and open and bully people. You know, he's going to get the ball.
It's all ego stuff. They thought Westbrook wasn't going to conform to a team, right? He's always going to do. No, he did that because look at the slappies he was playing with most of the time. You know, like that Oklahoma City roster after Kevin Durant and Harden left, it wasn't stocked with shooters. You know what I mean? Right. It's like he's got to put up stuff. And I think he's shooting maybe not a career best from three, but it's like 34, 35%. Westbrook is.
He's pretty close. If it's not, it's close.
Yeah, and I mean that's not elite, but you give me that from a guy that's not his forte. Usually probably means he's getting really open looks. He's not having to create off the bounce to take a shot. And he's taking good ones, which that was our worry. Is Westbrook going to take good shots? He's going to force stuff. I think the fit has just been phenomenal. And I don't know if we can re-sign him fast enough. No, which is crazy to think about.
And Russ has been a great on-the-ball defender. You know, obviously he has his lapses at times, but I think what he's brought to bring pace has been huge. Without him, we were the slowest offense in the league. Now we're one of the best transition scoring offenses in the league this year. And just to watch him and Jokic kind of have their version of the two-man game. Yeah. It's a lot different than Jokic and Murray's. Yeah. The thing about Jokic is that his hands are so good that Russ can throw passes that you could not throw to any other center. Right. And Jokic gets to them. There was one where he's just holding off. I forget the guy's name right now, but he's the French, the guy from the French national team that they signed, Yabusele. Yeah. He's holding him off with one hand, and Russ throws this entry pass that is not. It's on a line, and it's to like his outside hand. And Jokic just kind of bats it down, gathers it, uses his footwork and gets a layup. And it just 90 to 95% of other centers you can't throw that pass to. The chances are, that's either going to be a turnover or they're going to get it and they're not going to know what to do with it. And they're going to end up just sending it back out. And so I think that the thing that Russ has brought is just this ability to get Jokic the ball more than anyone else has ever gotten Jokic the ball. And it's not dribble handoffs, it is on the move, attacking mismatches. And it's been a really fantastic thing to watch for both of them. For Russ's career and for Jokic playing the best ball of his career, I think that there is, it may not be the reason that Jokic is putting up career numbers, but it definitely is a contributing factor.
Yeah. Yep. You saw him in the interview last night. Right? Shaq's asked him, how nice is it to play with a guy like Westbrook?
Yeah.
And even unprompted too. I think that the media and maybe some teams before then really misunderstood him. And here he can just be him. I think goes to show how tight that locker room is. So for all the pushback on Jamal and all that kind of stuff, which I was a little bit frustrated with him too. They're letting Russ be Russ. And I think, they're not having pissing contests, which shows that I think this team is on the up and up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're only 2.5 games out of second, I think, at this point. So the fact that they keep winning, I mean, if you get up to second, you're in the the argument to go back to the finals. It just is what it is. You have home court advantage all the way up until the Western Conference Finals. It's going to be hard for teams to battle back from that. I know we're halfway through the season, anything can happen, but some teams out there started hot and are tanking at this point, like Golden State. Through no fault of their own, they've had a lot of injuries, but this team is
the Mavs,
whether
the
they're
Kings,
older,
exactly.
Timberwolves.
Like, how's that cat deal looking now, Connolly? I mean, really, it's like a game and a half out of second. Their last 10, they are 8-2. And they're playing some of the best basketball in the NBA. Yeah, to be honest, I don't even know if they need the 4, especially if they play the Clippers. I think the Clippers play them tough, but I'm not even worried about home court because I think that this team has shown the ability to be able to play on the road. I think they continue to keep locking it down defensively. They're going to be just fine.
Yes, I think so. All right, let's talk Broncos.
Let's go, baby. Or,
let's do it.
As some of our friends might say, let's bow.
Let's bow. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the situation in the offseason with the salary cap and where the Broncos stand. This is a young team. We've talked about it. Looking at the cap, there's not a ton of guaranteed salary on this roster as it is currently constructed, which is good because you're still recovering from the Russ hit. Yep. But how do you think the offseason is setting up for the Broncos, as far as their ability to have some flexibility with their cap space? I can't remember who it was now, but on Twitter, or maybe it was The Athletic, someone posted an article. I didn't get a chance to read it, but said the Broncos cap space maybe isn't as good as people are expecting it to be. Where do you think the Broncos stand? Should we be excited about kind of the availability that we can have to go kind of hunting in free agency, or is this something that we're still going to look at this team and say probably going to need to fill more of those roles through the draft?
It'll be interesting to see what they choose to do. I think that'll speak volumes about where the front office and Peyton think this team is at.
Sure.
So right now they're sitting at, with all dead cap, all that stuff, about $39.8 million, which is in the middle of the pack. Remember, cash over cap. So the wealthiest owners in football, essentially you can cash load deals to minimize the cap hit, etc. You also can go and restructure a guy like Cortland Sutton, offering him extension. Right now he has a $20 million cap hit for next season. I don't think he plays on that. So I think that cost comes down. Yeah, Alex Singleton, one of my favorites, but he's making almost $7 million. Is he going to come back for that? Probably not. Troutman, $4.5 million. Going to come back for that? Probably not. So, right. I mean, you can see where I'm picking up and going through these things. So I like where they're at. I think that there are positions where they are weak, that the draft is a phenomenal place. So tight end, running back, I think defensive line, safety, those are all positions I think the Broncos will need some depth and some impact players in, and they will be able to get one or two or three. And so I think being able to be really mindful about your free agency dollars on positions that you can get some good value on. So inside linebacker isn't a position that costs you a ton. I think you can go get that. Safety right now, that market's down. You can go get that in free agency if you wanted to kind of raise the floor with PJ Locke's role. So I like where they're at. I think they can go get an impact wide receiver in either the draft or free agency. I think really ideally maybe someone that can work the slot. I think you can go get a quality-ish starting tight end and still draft, hopefully a potential 10-year guy. And then, defensive front, I think there's some really good talented pieces, and you have the ability to have them kind of come in for 40% of the snaps like DJ Jones did. And I think you can let him grow into the player that you need. Same with safety. Justin Simmons signed a 1-year, $8 million deal last year. Will be a free agent this year. Come home, Justin. But that's a position that I think you can, if you want to move on from PJ or move PJ back to the third safety, bring in someone, I think you can do it in a pretty good price range. And then really you don't have a ton of holes that you have to fill right now. It's really you're filling depth outside of the running back position. I would even say kind of the third receiver position. I think you bank on the guys that you got right now in the room, but maybe that's it. Adam Thielen, or that's a guy that is on the back end of their deal, wants to come, play for less, but know that they are the third option. And then tight end, like those are the positions that this team really needs to beef up on. And I think those are all positions that usually are pretty deep in free agency when you're looking at just guys that come in and contribute, and especially in the draft. All three of those provide some really good options. So I think if it were me, I'd double dip. I get someone I think that can provide some value in free agency, and then I draft someone to complement them in the draft that is a high upside play, and I kind of hedge my bets.
Yeah. I'm going to throw some names at you. You tell me if you think if the Broncos should pursue them in free agency.
Okay. We're at a club.
I'm not going to go
feeling nice. This player's at the bar. I'm deciding if I want to come say, like, what's up? All right, hit me.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I'd be interested in Amari. I think Amari is, I think, a guy that is reliable, has big play capability, but will come in my opinion, and be wide receiver one pretty quick. So I'd be for Amari. Obviously, dollars got to make sense, but yeah, I would.
How about Chris Godwin?
Yeah, for sure. If medical is clear, yep. Dude's a dog.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have a guy like that.
I mean, think about it too. Like that's a guy that does like the little stuff. Like he's tough. He's all of those things. So I think culturally too, he fits. So yeah, I would love Godwin. I'd put Godwin ahead of Amari for sure.
I think I would too. And I think probably a lot of people would. How about Levante David? Linebacker. I mean, I know who it is. Linebacker, Tampa.
Yeah.
Getting up there.
1 year deal,
35.
On a 1 year deal, yeah. Because I think you bring him in, you keep Alex there. Drew Sanders, hopefully, like stay at this position or something. Do you draft a guy to kind of take Stranad's spot on a 1 year deal? I wouldn't sign him to anything more than, we're plugging this gap. Let's try and win a Super Bowl. Levante David, welcome. You're a Denver Bronco.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that would kind of be a fun to pair with Brandon Jones. Would actually, I didn't realize he was a free agent. So I was just looking. I know that there's some other safeties that I was interested in, but that's an intriguing one for me.
I love it. I think with the style of football that this team wants to play, right? Pressure, takeaway, sacks, having him come into because I think you can still utilize PJ, and kind of the run enforcer. Tyrann Mathieu has never been scared to go hit people either. So, but he's just always been a guy that finds the ball. And I think I would love him, when I do some of the mocks, especially on PFF, I oftentimes will make sure that I add Tyrann Mathieu in a deal with the Saints, because I think he'd be perfect. Feistiness, good leadership. Yeah, I love the Honey Badger.
Yeah, and the obvious Saints tie, which is interesting.
Yep.
How about a different Saint, Jawan Johnson, tight end?
I would, yep. And I think there's that tie there. I would be shocked, actually, if he's not a Bronco.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. How about cornerback Mike Hilton?
No. I think Jaquan is...
You like Riley in there? Okay. As your two?
Yeah. I don't think he provides an upgrade over Jaquan, really.
Okay.
I think he's a little older, really good blitzer. I think he's a good nickelback, but I think you have one already. So I wouldn't. If I'm going to add to that room, it's either a really young piece that I can coach up, maybe has some high upside.
Yeah.
Or someone that I know is going to raise the roof.
What about like a more journeyman like Gilmore, Stephon Gilmore?
I bring Stefan in because I think you know where the floor is. And he's not going to command top dollar, but you need at least 4 healthy corners throughout the year to be good. Like, this league kind of calls for it. And so I would be a fan of Stefan, but to be honest with you, I think that the defense needs speed. So that necessarily wouldn't be the first name that came to mind.
Okay.
But I think, you know what? No, actually, let's move on. I wouldn't do that for Stefan. Because I think he's an outside corner. I don't know if Riley can play in the slot, and he doesn't bring speed to your team defense. I think what we saw in Buffalo was they're faster, and you really got to up the speed. So actually, I'm going to go back. No.
Okay. I'm going to make you pick out of 3. If we went after one of these running backs, which one would you want them to go after? Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb.
Well, I would say Nick Chubb all day, every day. If, we just had a really injured running back come back and not be him, and this is another shredded one. So, if it was a Vetman deal, Nick Chubb all day, bring him in. I would even be a favor of that, regardless of whatever you do. So really, it's between Najee and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is going to miss time because that's what he does. But I think he's a better player than Najee Harris. But Najee's younger, he's bigger. So I think reluctantly would go Najee.
Okay.
I think cost-wise, they're probably going to be the same-ish. But I think Najee Harris can get you 2 yards on 3rd and 2.
For sure.
And it's more likely to stay healthy. He's younger, so I'm assuming kind of a 3-year deal for either of them. I'd rather go with the younger guy.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's good. But needless to say, there's a number of free agents in this class that are intriguing and would fill needs. For the Denver Broncos, I would say probably, the tight end class is a little bit lackluster. I wouldn't really go for many of those guys. Maybe you bring on a guy like Mike Gesicki just because of his pass catching ability.
But in the end, he doesn't. He's not really a blocker. And Sean doesn't want tight ends that don't block. I would love, I think, Gesicki. We saw him, in Cincinnati on that Saturday night game. Had a really good game. Is a really good receiver at tight end. But I don't know that that's what Sean wants. That's why I think Juwan Johnson is a good play. Plus, he's a bigger cat. Good receiving skills so far. And familiarity with the system, et cetera. So, that definitely, if they sign a free agent to come in and be a starter, I think that's who they bring in.
Yeah. And I just learned that Mercedes Lewis is still playing football at 40 years old, almost 41.
And
so
he would be available. Yeah. I'd bring in Mercedes as a man deal. He can still block, and I think
that's true.
We've ran into we don't, 3rd and goal. He doesn't have to be fast to run 6 yards, turn around, or to blow someone up. But that wouldn't be my plan.
No. I just thought that would.
It's that's a hard position. I mean, you got to give the man his flowers. 19 years, he's competed in the NFL at one of the most physically demanding positions in all of sports.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it'll be fun to see how that kind of all shakes out. I think that if we want to talk about the draft a little bit, and we had a national championship game the other day that ended made me quite happy, to say the least. Ohio State turned it up early, kind of let off the gas in the middle, and then just finished off Notre Dame down the stretch. And just wanted to go over, did you get to watch the game? B, anyone on either of those teams that caught your eye as someone that the Broncos could target or go after that you would be interested in?
Oh, man. I mean,
I'm putting up the big board. That's fine.
Absolutely. I really do. I like a lot of it. I think Ohio State, that roster is worth all of the $20 million it reportedly takes to field that team. Gotta love, you gotta love their freshman receiver. Guy is an absolute monster.
Smith is wild. He's gonna be
Smith, but he's not gonna be out for a little bit. Josh Simmons didn't play. tackle, really athletic guy. Egbuka, is it Egbuka or Egbuka?
Yeah, Egbuka.
Okay. It's interesting because he physically isn't like imposing, number one, but he's good size, 6'1", 205, always gets open, sure-handed. Jack Sawyer, I think, is an absolute monster. Kind of reminds me of TJ Watt a little bit. Tyreek Williams, I think, has really come on. Bigger guy at almost 330.
Yeah.
Tuamolau is a nice player too. I think can move inside and outside. I really like Ransom. And I think plus that's a sweet, dope name. We talked about the running backs, Henderson and Junkins. And that's just from them. Donovan Jackson played tackle this year, was a guard and played really well. Cody Simon, you talked about. Denzel Burke is a good player. I really like McLaughlin, their center. I think that's a guy that maybe you could bring in later. And that's just them. You know, and I think Notre Dame has some good talent too. I really like their tight end Evans. I think he's a player that really could,
for sure.
Yeah, can really be someone for this team. Benjamin Morrison's a really good corner. Xavier Watts is a phenomenal safety. So, yeah, I think that there's a few guys that this Broncos team can look at that played on Monday. And also, again, flowers to you. Congrats on rooting for the team that won the national title. Question: would you trade that national championship for a win against Michigan?
No, not at this point. I mean, obviously, that's what you want during. It's funny because most other years you wouldn't be able to say that. You know what I mean? You lose to Michigan, who's unranked at the end of the season, and those late losses just kill you, especially in the rankings. But because of the way that the college football playoff is, and I'm thankful, especially this year, that it is that way. I don't have to trade it, so I'm glad. But obviously a natty is what you want.
Yeah,
that's what everyone's going for. So you can't trade it away for a regular season win. As much as I would love to break that streak finally again. It doesn't seem to just like we never go back and forth. It's just like one owns the other for a certain amount of time. And for Ohio State, it was
not
like
a volley. It's like one class. Like Jack Sawyer never beat Michigan.
Never.
Right?
All of the seniors. Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But that team's great. You know what? Will Howard, I was wrong. I did not see him elevating his game to the degree that he did throughout the college football playoff.
I was wrong too.
I was
wrong too.
Yeah. All right. More draft stuff. What else you got? Let's get off this. Gush.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the guys that I would like for this team.
Yeah.
I would like Tyreek Williams. I know that DJ Jones going out. I think it's not necessarily someone that I would. It's not necessarily the biggest need for the Broncos. However, he really stood out to me in the national championship game. His size and just physicality in general, getting pressure up the middle, was huge. He had a play where he kind of dropped into coverage and was able. He didn't make the tackle, but was able to get over to the receiver. Just kind of a quick little pass over the middle. Delayed him enough for someone to get there and rally. So he's clearly fairly athletic. He's a guy who will create chaos on the defensive line for someone. And those guys are valuable in this league. And I don't know that there's anyone quite, there's a couple of guys in the draft that may have that sort of role. But the Broncos, when you run that 3-4 scheme, having someone in the middle of that line that can just take up space and occupy bodies is so important.
Yep.
And I think that he would be someone that you could bring in and could do that for you. I actually like Igbinosun. He was one. He had a bit of a rough national championship game. He got a few pass interference calls on him. But throughout the season, he's been really sharp. He's been really good in man coverage. He got a little bit grabby against Notre Dame at times, which was I felt a little bit out of character for him compared to the rest of the season. However, I think he's got some upside. He's a guy that you can come in and kind of groom and let him develop.
6'2".
Yeah,
he hasn't turned 21 yet, even. So it
Yeah.
definitely would be a guy that literally can grow into the position for sure.
Yeah, and he's got some kind of good prototypical size.
Yeah, good length. Yep. He looks the part. That's for sure.
And then a little bit later in the draft, I do like Cody Simon. I think he's someone who could develop into someone that's impactful on this defense. He is athletic. He seems to have a pretty good nose for the football. I think there will be questions about whether he can hold up in coverage on the NFL level, and I think that's valid. But I like the way that he plays. I like the way that he comes downhill. He's not afraid to get in the mix and create some havoc himself. So those are some guys that I would target. And then obviously one of those two running backs. I don't care which one. I like both of them. So you want Henderson.
Just looking at this a little bit, Cody Simon, at least to PFF, graded out pretty well across the board. Coverage grade of 72.6.
Yeah.
Overall, almost at 87.6. The way that they graded him out for the year. Great in run defense, which I think if you're a team that's going to play as light as the Broncos do and most NFL teams do, you got to have a guy that's going to be able to come in and stop the run. Some good size, 6'2", 230. I like him too. I think I think he would be a pro, a good addition kind of in the pro game. I think his game even translates a little bit better too, being a big, fast ability to be able to swivel some hips because you're gonna have to guard Travis Kelce's of the world. So
yeah, that would be where I would worry most about him. And then again, those running backs, either Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson. Again, pick your poison. I think Judkins showed a little more in the national championship game. His ability to catch the ball, get open on break kind of plays that have broken down or routes across the middle field. Just his ability to run tough. Makes him really appealing. And then Henderson, just you put the ball in his hands, and if he gets to the outside and he's got the space in front of him, he's going to get yardage. So, and there are good players on both sides. You mentioned Mitchell Evans. I like him. They got a defensive tackle, Howard Cross.
Howard Cross, good player.
Pretty good prospect. So I mean, there's just a lot of talent on both of those rosters. I think Xavier Watts, another one that you mentioned, just a high end safety. A guy that you probably would have to get in the first round.
I think he might be a day 2 guy.
He could be, but he'd be early.
Aren't going to get drafted as high as maybe they should.
That's true. Yeah.
But he gives you prototypical size, has a nose for the ball. All the things that we're kind of missing on that back end with PJ. So, absolutely. Give me all that. Mitchell Evans, I think his stock really in like most draft boards has went significantly down this year, which to be honest with you, I'm all for. If you can get this guy in like 4th, 5th, 6th round, like nice. Last year was phenomenal. This year, didn't really pan out the way, but 43 catches at the tight end position, over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, gives you some really good prototypical size there. 6'5", 260. Let's go, House. And it's still, 21. So I think that's a positive when you're looking at, I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. That's for sure.
For sure. I'm just about out of time. Anyone that, we're just going to be talking about draft picks or potential draft guys that we like all season. Got anyone you want to call out this week that we haven't already covered, or saving that for another episode?
No, I think from the national championship game for just to kind of keep it narrowed. Let me ask you a question. If you had one guy to pick up off of Ohio State, you would say, you know what, if the Broncos got this guy, I think that this is, if I were to take one, I want this guy on the Broncos. Who would that be?
Man, that's like picking your favorite child. It's hard.
Yeah.
But
it's not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, but it varies. It depends on the day. That's
what can you say out loud. Actually,
I can pick it. Right, exactly. I think I would probably lean. Man, that's so tough. I would probably lean Travion Henderson.
Okay.
Just because I think he has the ability to run between the tackles. He's not a big beat him up, knock him down running back. But he's a game breaker. He's a guy that if you get him out in space, that can take it to the house. Judkins has some good speed, but he had a big run in that game that he got run down at the very end. He just wasn't able to get it into the end zone. Not that 70 yards he ran wasn't good enough by any means, but Henderson.
This team needs guys that are going to break away, and you can't break away if you get caught. I like that. I think Trayvon Henderson's, averaged 70 yards a carry. Had 26 catches for 281, so over 10 yards a catch for a running back is really good. So I really like that. I think if I were to take one, what's interesting is that you didn't ask me, but
I want to know.
Yeah, I actually would take part of it's like I like Amika. So if they came away with that, I think it would be good. I think he has kind of wide receiver 2 ceiling. Like I don't know that he's Garrett Wilson or Olave. Like I don't think he's those guys. Right. There's an interesting thing is like he's been a top talent for his entire time at Ohio State, but has never been the best receiver on his own team. Which is just if I were to take a guy though, I want Jack Sawyer. Again, I think reminds me of TJ Watt. And it's 260, plays the run really well. And you can't ever have enough guys, and I think if he comes in, how good would you feel about your rotation of Nick Bonito, Jack Sawyer, Ellis, Tillman, and obviously Nick Bonito, and Cooper. And that would feel nice, and I think it would give you some freedom to be able to do a bunch. I don't think that will happen. So with that being struck, I would take Amika. I think if the Broncos drafted him at 20, I would feel really good about Cortland Sutton, Amika, and Marvin Mims kind of being your group next year. That would feel pretty good to me. Yeah,
I mean, for sure. It's just kind of that theoretical debate of like, would you rather take a wide receiver first, or if if the best whatever there, that's maybe feels a little more valuable at that time. But I mean, Ibuka, he's smooth. He's a great route runner. He reminds me a little bit.
He runs hard even when he's not in the progression.
Yeah.
I think he's just a really good floor setter, and raising that, like you're going to get some really solid pro production from day one. And that's the kind of part I like about him. He's really polished coming into the league. He's only 22, so it's not like he's an old guy.
No, not by any means. He reminds me a little bit of Terry McLaurin when he was coming out in the draft. Just smooth, could run routes, had great hands, knew how to get separation. And McLaurin is probably. I mean, I think obviously he's a wide receiver 1 on that team, but he's not a top 5, maybe not a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. But he's a guy that's going to go out there and is reliable and is going to catch every ball that you throw at him. And when you have a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback, I guess at that point, a young quarterback, those guys are so valuable. So I would.
He's a guy that you can trust to get open on 3rd and 6. I think he's one of those players. Has played a ton in the slot. I think PFF said, he ran routes from the slot 343 times compared to out wide 70. I think working in the middle of the field has been a problem from jump, and I think he's a guy that would really kind of come in and solve that pretty quick. For sure.
All right. Well, let's. We got lots of draft talk moving forward. We got lots of Avs and Nuggets talk. Trade deadlines come out for both NHL and NBA. So we'll keep an eye on that. I don't know that we see too much in the future for that, but Mikko is an option for that. So definitely NHL is one to keep an eye on. We didn't even talk about Bruce Brown. We got to talk about that next time. If there's no movement, I forgot to bring that up. But that's the kind of the name out there for the Nuggets is Bruce Brown get bought out. And if he does, what does it take to get him on that roster? So we'll talk about that next time, assuming he doesn't get traded in the meantime. But thank you everyone for being here. We appreciate you. Go check us out on social media. We love chatting with you guys. We appreciate you tuning in every week, and we want to interact as much as possible. Especially, we've got 2 teams in championship windows still mid-season, so lots of time to tune in if you aren't already, and Unfortunately, Broncos season is officially over, but you've got some amazing superstars to root for in town still.
Yep.
And some great tickets too. So if you want to get to a game and see an MVP, you got two options at Ball Arena.
Yeah. Nothing's stopping you.
Nothing's stopping you. Like, well, maybe money, but that's about it.
Maybe. And parking.
But thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. And remember, if you need a sports prescription, ask a doctor.
I'll write you up.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute, work hard for the car so